I was driving out one night, deep in the sticks, through a patch of dead air. The monotony of the road and the static of my car's radio lulled me as my eyes began to feel heavier and heavier. I was staring up at the stars through drooping eyes when my ears were pierced by a deafening sound emanating from the radio. A cacophony of humans screaming. So many people begging for help. I veered to the side of the road, completely caught off guard, and just as it had come, it just ended, leaving me in near silence as the radio quietly hummed. I went home that night, and as I lay there unable to sleep, I thought about what had happened. I wondered if I had picked up a stray signal from someone who actually needed help. The next day, I went out and went back to that same spot, guided by the screaming that had projected from the radio. I had to come prepared in case someone out there was injured. I'd also brought a portable radio, determined to follow the signal to its source. And so I did. I followed it as it got louder and louder until I reached the source, a large, craterous hole in the ground. I could hear muffled cries coming from within. Horrified, I now knew someone was injured down there. I had to help them. So I tied a rope to a nearby tree and began my descent into the depths. The cave was humid and wet, water dripping down from the ceiling. The air was filled with a metallic smell, like corroded pennies. A breeze ran through the cave, carrying with it an orchestral symphony of agony. I started walking deeper when I tread on something that clinked. It was a set of keys with a tag that read Apartment Building 426, followed by an address from a city I knew didn't exist. As I walked deeper in, I soon found where the screams and moans of agony were coming from. At least a dozen people were fused into the walls, ceiling, and the floor of the cave. One man was completely fused into the stone wall, his face frozen with an expression of terror. I still remember the horrible sound of grinding stone on stone as his eyes shifted to meet me. There were others half fused to the stone walls, crying in pain for help. Some had limbs missing, perfectly cut off in single straight edges. There was no blood, although the stumps didn't seem to be cauterized. One man was on the floor in a fetal position. Well, half of him was there. Half of him had sunken into the floor. Half his face looked up at me, and he began to speak to me in barely legible words. "You have to help us, please, for the love of God. Please." His pained murmuring quickly grew into a frantic screaming. "My wife! Where's my wife? You have to help her! You have to save her!" And when he went quiet again, a woman's voice called out a name from the depths of the cave. When he heard it, they both erupted in agonizing wails. That was the sound of two people who'd lost their last hope, had it stripped away from them. An animalistic, pained sobbing that echoed from the cavern's walls. His arms shot up and clamped down on my leg painfully. "You have to get me out. I can't go back. Please, don't make me go back." I grabbed his arm, and his skin shifted under my grip like wet clay. I pulled, but he wouldn't budge. So I pulled harder and pulled. His arm's socket popped wetly as it dislocated, and the arm itself tore off like wet paper. When the arm gave way, I fell backwards, smashing my head into a stone and passing out. When I woke up, the cave was silent. I was the only one there. So I climbed out and called the police. Park rangers met me at the hole and told me that the police had deferred the situation to them. The cave had been silent for the past couple of hours, as I'd waited for them to arrive. They went down briefly before coming back up, and in a frustrated tone, announced that there was no one down there. They suggested that I had either made up the whole situation or I'd imagined it. And as they escorted me out of the woods and to my car, they told me to leave and not to come back. They said they'd arrest me if they ever saw me here again. But as I'm sitting here writing this down, I know I couldn't have imagined it or made it up. I still have the keys.